Silent Hill 2 is a f***ing masterpiece. I know I sound like pretty much everyone who's talked about this game in this format before, but let me elaborate. Not only has it aged extremely well in the graphics quality and pretty much everything else too, but is probably one of the most accurate modern depictions of depression ever put out as a piece of media. Not just this, it is in my opinion one of the closest things we'll have to the perfect psychological horror game. When you load the game up for the first time, you're greeted with a menu. There's nothing really that special about it, the sounds of those nice clear PS2 blip tones. However, when you go to the new game, you select the combat and difficulty. Second you press start, ominous sound plays, already warning you of what's to come. The game starts with a man in an unkept public restroom. The tiles are broken, there's dirt everywhere, and I'm surprised the tap even worked so he could wash his hand. Our main character, James Sunderland, then steps outside to a beautiful cliffside view of a lake. Obviously, due to hardware limitations of 2001 when this game was released, it's just a still image, but somehow it just fits. Gotta save those resources.
In my restless dreams, I see that town, Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place, waiting for you.
A slow acoustic guitar fades in and James starts monologuing about how he's come to the town because he got a letter from his supposedly dead wife. This scene is a near-perfect introduction to the game. The acoustic guitar is comforting, but the image background combined with the thick fog and worn-out looking textures just signals something off. After this short scene, you could try taking the road only to see that it has been closed off, which is strange, but I guess you're just gonna have to walk down the small forest trail. During this section, a dark, distant synth melody fades out of the thick fog, keeping you on edge like something's about to jump out in front of you. You start running down the path to just get it over with, but it still feels like ages, not like you can see anyway. You pass by a well that has a book thrown in it for some reason. James feels sick and... This is the save screen. This is what's supposed to be the thing you see at the best of times where you just did something. But instead it's just the character staring blankly with a red filter, almost asking why you even bothered to make it to this screen in the first place.
Excuse me,
I'm sorry. I
No,
was
it's
just...
okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost.
Lost?
From the very first cutscene, you can tell these are gonna be a treat. Not only are the FMVs really impressive for 2001, but the characters actually don't talk like they can read each other's minds full of confidence. They're kind of shy and awkward. They don't really seem to have a plan on what they're gonna say next, and they're thinking about it in the moment.
Oh, it's you.
What's a little girl like you doing here, anyway?
Huh? Are you blind or something?
Your face, your voice, just your hair and clothes are different.
My name is Maria.
Oh yeah? Why not? Till now I always let people walk all over me. Just like that stupid dog.
Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? You don't sound very happy to see me.
Are you taping again? Come on.
Now, sure, you can call this bad acting, but as far as the ending of this game is concerned, that would be pretty odd. In my opinion, it enhances the vibe of the game, and by one of the first times you hear a positive, confident voice, it just seems weird and out of place and doesn't fit the setting at all.
Hi there, everybody! Thanks for tuning in.
What?
Welcome to another exciting edition of Trick or Treat!
What was that?
That's what I'm saying. But it wouldn't be a 2000s horror game without some kind of monster, and this it delivers plenty of. There's not a ton of them that's stressful and overwhelming like in Resident Evil, which fit the mood of that game well, and it's not like you have limited inventory slots for weapons to take them out, which I'm a big fan of after that game. However, there's just enough that it's more like an abrupt scare and something to seriously creep you out. This is thanks to the genius designs of Masahiro Ito, I hope that I pronounced that right, who created them. Your first encounter will have you going up against a straitjacket looking monster with nothing but the creepiest radio sound ever, and a plank with a nail in it. Believe it or not, a lot of these horrific, grotesque things were made from completely mundane and natural things. Kind of ironic if you think about it. For instance, the one you're seeing right now was inspired by a man walking down the Konami office halls with his hands in his hoodie and with headphones on. And this one, there's just two legs on top of each other. And if you've played the game, you know what this represents. Probably the last bit of a live Mary that James ever saw, which is pretty dark if you think about it. You can't mention the monsters without mentioning the famous Pyramid Head. Perverted pyramid It's hard to explaining without spoiling the game too much, so if you want to skip that, then go to this time signature. Pyramid Head is a manifestation of James's guilt, like a karma always watching you, but never the other way round. You can try getting rid of them for a while, but you can't until you face them head on with everything you've got. It's pretty genius actually. No idea why it was in Homecoming though. Another huge part of the Silent Hill vibe is the vacant town itself, and the environment that brings with it. The power still works, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of that much bad things that went down. The interiors are grimy and run down, everything seems a bit wet or rusty, but for some reason it just feels right, like it's supposed to be that way all along. Later in the game though, the layouts will really start skewing perspective and looking disgusting, making you want to get through them as quickly as possible as you delve down holes way deeper into the main character's subconsciousness in a way. The camera angle is getting more and more extreme as this happens, which is apparently inspired by people such as David Fincher, David Lynch, and you guessed it, Alfred Hitchcock. But for the most part, it's just like everybody vanished without a trace, and the town is covered up by the fog to hide the real truth. Truth. Sort of a pretty great metaphor for the last part of this game. I'll try and keep it spoiler free, but that's all I'm going to say for now, unless you want to be spoiled by my reaction to that. Is this going to be the bit where he's like traumatized from her dying in front of him or something? James. This is actually kind of a beat though. This is kind of sick. I wouldn't exchange it for your wife though. I mean, I know the song is good, but I know the melody's nice, but you know, you didn't have to do that. The flashlight's gone. Oh no. There's also a sub-scenario where you can play as Maria, and there's a few joke endings if you didn't think they had a sense of humour. I mean, imagine playing this serious horror game, and then you find out it was all actually just a dog pushing buttons. Or the UFO ending, which is in the style of a 1930s silent film. You see what I did there? But I think it wouldn't be wrong when I say Silent Hill 2 was one of the greatest original soundtracks ever written for a video game. I am dead serious. It was all done by Akira Yamaoka, and on individual tracks he would go as far as spending 3 weeks in the studio alone just to make a track right. Now that is dedication. His music and sounds are also probably the biggest factor in getting you uncomfortable during the experience. I turned my volume down loads of times because I was getting stressed out by the harsh distorted synthwork that plays in many of the levels. Although a lot of players remember him for the more toned down and mellow tracks, that's right, this game has some really beautiful tracks aside from the kinky inspired panic attacks in music form.
No, I don't want sticky keys.
But yeah, it has some really beautiful tracks. In fact, it's what got me to check out the game in the first place, and a lot of players agree that these are some of the best ones in the series ever.
James. What the hell?
James.
What the actual
I'd like to make this video longer, but there's just so much to touch on in this game that I don't know if I'm able to do it. Ain't no one got that much of an attention span on this PG-13 channel. No matter your viewpoint, Silent Hill is more like an exploration and coming to terms with the darkest part of one's mind. Sure, it's always going to be there, but that doesn't mean you can't do something about it. Getting the chance to acknowledge the terrible thing he's done was James's reason for coming to Silent Hill all along. All the people in Silent Hill were there for their own personal reasons relating to mental health and the different states of it portrayed in the game. Heck, a lot of them weren't even real people and just James's mind in action. And when he finally realizes this, he can come to terms with it, and it's at this point, we're no longer running away from the monsters and beating them down with wooden planks, we are getting rid of them, one by one. I know that's a pretty confusing thing and a bit deep for the usual topics of this channel, but this game deserves that, it absolutely does. It's a pretty good game. And not just that, as far as I know, it is the only game to actually make me cry. It really did, but it wasn't from the horror. It was from the sweetness. Either way though, whether you're a gamer or not, Silent Hill 2, even though it's over 20 years old, is a must play. I am dead serious. This is probably the most must-play game I've ever reviewed on this channel. It's not my favourite game in the world, and probably not everyone will like it. However, with the remake coming soon, I really hope they don't botch it, because the original, well, quite frankly, it's one of the greatest pieces of media I've ever consumed. And with that note, I hope I've explained why Silent Hill 2 is more than just a game.
No crap, you ain't even got a blanket. You got your feet sticking out.